We've got a great guest, Senator Cortez Masto from Nevada. Part of the reason we asked her to come on today is that in 2022, she ran and won what was a very close election. And given that we are now yet again in another close election, we really wanted to get her perspective on how things are going from the ground. Give us a sense of how things are going. And thanks so much for taking the time to be with us in this final 2 weeks.
Absolutely. First of all, Simon, thank you. And believe me, I think I have said to so many people, you've got to read your columns, listen to your podcast. You're one of the very few that understands Nevada and what's happening here, because it's hard to read to Nevada, and that's normal. That's how Nevada has always been, and that's why it's a swing state. But let me just say, right now we are doing what we do best as Democrats here. It's our ground game. It's organizing, and we organize our way to victory. We knock on doors. We're talking to voters, and for everybody who's listening, those polls, those Insta polls, they do not know Nevada, and they usually get it wrong. But how we know what's going on the ground is when our voters and our canvassers are out there knocking on doors, and we hear from voters themselves. And I feel really good where we are for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, as well as for our ticket here in Nevada with Jacky, Rosen, and many of our congressionals, including our state house, as well as the down ballot. But let me just say a couple of things. Over the last few years, including in my race after the pandemic, in Nevada, we implemented new voting opportunities. We always had early voting in Nevada, where you could literally go to a mall, go to a public library. You can go somewhere and vote in person. And most Nevadans did that. 60% of Nevadans did that. And traditionally, they were more Democrats, because Democrats would early vote. And Republicans, who are in our rural areas mainly, would wait till election day. So we could always gauge who has voted and whether they were D's or R's. That was also at a time when we had just as registered voters, a major party of Democrats, major party of Republicans, and very few that were nonpartisan or other. In the last 4 years, that has changed since the pandemic. Because of automatic voter registration in the state of Nevada, more voters through the DMV are registered as nonpartisans. And then because of the pandemic, we implemented mail-in voting. You can vote by mail now. And this will be the first presidential race where we have implemented all of those new voting opportunities. And we have now a third of our registered voters are nonpartisans. And actually, I want to say even more than that, there are more nonpartisans registered voters than there are D's and R's now. So the whole dynamic here has changed. This election right now will set the baseline. And it's going to be down to the wire. It will be within the margins. And it will be a race that the nonpartisans are going to make a difference. For everybody who's listening, in my race, that was the same when I won in my midterm just recently. And the nonpartisans broke my way. They leaned Democrat, and they broke my way over 10 points, and that's why I won. So it is too early to tell. I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. Every time one of our counties provides the data on the mail-in or in person, a news organization will pick it up and write a story. Oh no, the R's are outperforming the D's, or the D's are outperforming the R. There's no D firewall. It is too early to tell. There were so many articles that came out just yesterday, Simon, and Washoe County, which is Reno, hadn't even reported until just today their mail-in ballots. So there's too much information that the reporters are just national news and the news organizations are picking up, and they're not getting the full picture, because all of our 17 counties, they're reporting their data at different times. And whether it's mail-in ballot or in person, they're coming in at different times. So it's too early to tell right now. And the only thing I can tell you is that it's going to be down to the wire, and the nonpartisans in this state are going to make a difference. And traditionally, they have leaned towards Democrats because they care about the issues that we're talking to them about. Those kind of bread and butter issues about prices and lowering prices for families, for the cost of housing in the state, cost of groceries, along with safe communities, keeping their communities safe, and ensuring we're addressing reproductive freedom for women, which is a majority of Nevadans support that in this state. And I don't care whether you're a Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan, a majority of them support that. Along with all of that is the immigration issue. That is boiled up to the top. And then, my gosh, what Trump did with not supporting the peaceful transfer of power has really undermined our democracy. And there's so many Nevadans that care about that, including from Republicans and nonpartisans. So there's still a lot of issues that so many of our electeds, including Kamala Harris, they're talking to our voters now about, and they're paying attention now. This is the time our voters in Nevada pay attention. Prior to summer, they won't, but now's the time. And so they're looking for those canvassers at the door. They're looking to talk to people. They're waiting to hear the candidates themselves. Kamala Harris has been here. Tim Walz has been here. They've had their surrogates here. Everybody's been talking to our voters. And that is the strength here. And that's why I am confident that it will be a close race, but Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, they will win.
Well, and a couple bits of data for people that don't know the state, because it's an unusual state, is that between 2016 and 2020, 40% of the voters who voted in 2020 in Nevada had not lived there in 2016. And part of what that means is that these grassroots work that you do and all the door-to-door stuff that we're doing is hugely important, more so in this state almost than any other state in the country, because you have so many new people that are new, because the turnover in Las Vegas in particular is so high. And so this door-to-door work is really meaningful in a state like this. And the second data point, as the senator said, is that the NPAs, the nonpartisan registrants, are going to be more democratic this time because we didn't have a presidential primary. And a lot of these people who were automatically registered didn't have to register as Democrats. They didn't have an action enforcing mechanism. And so there's a hidden Democratic vote. There's always this hidden Democratic vote in the nonpartisan registrants. But it will probably be, based on a lot of work we've been doing, even bigger than last time. And that stuff's not showing up in the DNR numbers that are coming out in the early days. And then talk a little bit about the Senate race. I mean, it seems like we're in a strong position there.
Yeah, for Jacky Rosen, who is up for her reelection, she has done everything what she needs to do, getting out into the state, talking to everybody. She's been up on the air, and she is talking to our voters and reaching them where they are. People forget in Nevada is a majority minority state, meaning we have almost 30% are Latinos of our population. We have one of the fastest growing AA Pacific Islander population. And we also have a very strong African American community. We have 28 tribal communities, federally recognized tribes here in the state. We have a very strong white collar, 14% are union organized, skilled trade, our service industry, the culinary. So it is a very diverse mix. And that matters in this state. When you are talking to people, you reach them where they are and you talk to them and you give them the ability to engage, even if there's language barriers. So, Simon, let me give you an example. When people go to vote in Nevada, they can vote in English, Spanish, or Tagalog because a lot of our AAPI community are Filipinos. And so part of our conversation with our voters here is showing up where they are and talking to them. And the canvassers right now, we have been knocking on doors since April. We have over thousands of volunteers. We have knocked over 800,000 doors.
Wow, that's amazing.
The strength of our ground game really is what pulls the candidates, and including the presidentials, over the finish line this time. And again, that's why I say I have a better sense of what voters are doing here in Nevada when I hear what they're saying at the door instead of these Insta polls that come in or these reporting that is done by news organizations based on the latest number that has come in from a rural county, even though it's not the entire picture of who has voted at that time.
Well, and just to put an exclamation point on that, this is one of the hardest states to poll because of the diversity of the population, how young it is, also the transient nature, the turnover that happens. And so you've seen two states this cycle where the polling had been wild and all over the place. And it's been yours and Arizona, right? Places with large numbers of Latino voters that are also harder to reach, particularly the Spanish speakers. And so, we went through this in 2022 in your race. The polling was crazy. The public polling in your race was so bonkers and so bad. And you ended up, closing strong and winning this thing. And I think that, what I've been hearing from everyone on the ground I've been talking to is people feel like things are even better this time than they were in 2020 at this point, or in 2022. And so there's a lot of optimism on the ground from folks that I'm talking to. And so, Senator, I know you got to go. You're going to go out and help us close strong out there. Any final parting words for everybody?
No, I think everybody the goal here now is to do the work and organize. Anybody who wants to come and knock on doors, anybody who wants to help us cure ballots, anybody who else wants to help us in a swing state like Nevada make a difference, reach out to us. We'll put you to work. But it's just from my perspective, and I think, Simon, you're right. The energy level that I feel here was even more energy than in my midterm where I won. The excitement, what is happening on the ground here is going to make the difference here in Nevada. So I am confident.